Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Dave Neal, the Bali bad boy. That's right, coming to you from the other side of the world, and I've got some content for you on this Friday to get you through the day. Kaity, on the current season of The Bachelor, dishes about her overnight date with Zach. That's right, Kaity was on the hit Bachelor podcast, being interviewed by Grocery Store Joe. Can't a girl dream? And in that interview, she discussed why she got no sleep. Was it because Zach kept her up all night? Actually, quite the opposite. He was the one who ended the night early, and we'll get into this story in a second. I tell you what, if you want to stick around for this whole video, I will share you a quick glimpse at my villa that I'm staying at. I got to tell you guys, it's amazing. There are macaques, which apparently, am I pronouncing that right? Macaques? The small monkeys that, by the way, I thought it was a jaguar coming at me. It was a monkey. It must have been 50 pounds. This thing was ready to rip my nose off. So I'm going to show you this video, just not of the monkey ripping my head off, but I'll show you this little sneak peek, as it were, of this jungle terrace that we're staying at. The Wi-Fi is good enough to get this content out, so let's get into it. The lady's doing her hair in the other room, so let's get into. Here's what Kaity said. I'm going to share two different clips. Here's the first one where she discussed the date that was canceled, and of course Zach had the old COVID-19, and in that she did that little date through the door with him. Have a listen.
You make the decision to go up to his room, knock on the door, and talk to him through the door.
Yes.
Why did you do that? And were you happy about it after?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Yeah, I was super excited to do that only because
Was it a great question, or is that okay?
Well, there's many reasons why I wanted to do that, but I think like the way I pictured it is, kind of how the show pans out, and I had my one-on-one already, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna have like moments here, moments there get stolen away, and I'm like, okay, so how am I going to further build a connection with this man that potentially I'm going to be engaged to at the end, and how do I show my initiative that I do care for him? So yeah, I was like, okay, like maybe like a little gift basket, some soup, some tea, get some slippers.
By the way, for those listening on Bachelor Rush Hour, the Hit Daily podcast, you can't see Aaron, but Aaron's also in this conversation, and you can see the soul leave his body as he's like, what did I sign myself up for?
Little teddy bear in there too. And I was like, I don't know how this conversation's going to go through the door. It could be extremely awkward or it could go really well. And it went really well. And I think Zach was really appreciative of it, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. So I had a question for you now. If you didn't do that, and the first time you see Zach is when he's about to go on his date with Charity, would you have considered pulling him there like Kat did? No. Okay.
Kaity says she wouldn't have pulled a cat. Okay, let's go to the next clip of Kaity. Here she is explaining what went down on her overnight. And if you aren't familiar, forget about the overnight. She did this overnight date with these silk pajamas at the Natural History Museum with old Zachy over there. And then they slept together. And by together, I mean in the same tent. And whenever I see these dates, I'm like, do they really sleep over there? Well, here's what she had to say regarding that date and why she did not get any sleep that night.
Well, let's go to your date. You get a one-on-one. You guys get a whole museum by yourselves, and then you spend the night. So let's just go right to spending the night. Were you shocked about that? Let's get right into the good stuff, okay?
Get right into it.
Okay. Were you?
I think Grocery Store Joe's a pretty good interviewer for the Bachelor stuff. I just think poor Aaron over here, got paid $50 to show up. He's in the Michelle Young, slot where they don't let him say anything.
Shocked when he asked you to spend the night, because that doesn't happen on the show.
Yeah, no, I was super shocked, super excited though when he did ask me. And I didn't really know what to think of it at the time, but when we walked around the corner and we saw kind of like the camp set up and the tent, I was like blown away. I thought it was so cute, so romantic. And the thing with me that
so cute, so romantic. Well, thank the set decorator who set it up, because I'm sure Zach wasn't in charge of the silk pajamas.
Is like I'm really bad at sleeping. Like I have a white noise machine and all this stuff. So
I have a white noise machine too. Her name's Katie Thurston. No, I'm just kidding. Get it? White white joke. Okay. She would have approved. All right. Anyway, sorry.
Sleeping in that tent wasn't it. It wasn't the play for me. You could hear like construction off in the distance, Zach kind of snoring a little bit, and I just couldn't sleep. Hence why I was like, I got no sleep. I think Zach got a little bit of sleep, but not me.
Okay. And you guys pushed the beds together.
Oh, heck yeah, we did.
Was it cold?
Whoa. They pushed the bed. Breaking news. I don't have the breaking news button here. Kaity and Zach pushed the beds together. They had 2 cots on the other, they were separated in the tent, 2 cots on either side. They pulled their cots out together. They pulled their cots together.
Cold in there? You guys had to snuggle up for warmth? It was purely survival, right?
Purely survival. It was actually quite chilly in there. But he basically, I remember we were having a conversation and then he was like, okay, good night. And I was like, what? I was
just in the middle of the convo?
Yeah. So I started talking again. I'm like, I don't think I heard that right. And then he's like, okay, good night. I'm like, yeah, okay. All right.
I'm telling you, I like Zach. I do. Everyone thinks I'm giving him a hard time. Zach's just an oddball. He's got the woman of his dreams, and he just chooses sleep over, furthering the conversation. How funny is that?
All right. Well, good night.
So he's like, stop talking. Is that?
Yeah, he's like, shut up.
Okay, so
I was like, all right, well. Nothing happened for those who think something.
So there, Kaity says, even though they were in the Natural History Museum, the aura and vibe of the museum didn't get the best of them, and they didn't make riveting cot sex. If you've ever slept in a cot before, they're very squeaky. Not to tell you a story here, because I don't know, maybe you like a side story or not. Leave a comment. But when Hurricane Katrina hit in the fall. I was actually studying abroad in France, but that following spring, those of us that weren't cool enough to go on a spring break trip decided to drive down to New Orleans 26 hours straight, and we helped out the best we could in the 9th Ward. We helped out gutting a home. We probably all got asbestos and mold damage. It was heartbreaking. It was one of those scenarios where we probably got more out of it than the people we were helping, because our how we grew as 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, and saw a lot of the devastation was very character building, although that wasn't our intent. But we stayed in this gigantic almost factory building with thousands of other volunteers, all volunteering during spring break to try to help continue to clean up New Orleans, or at least this one special area. And every time you moved, and we were all just sleeping on military cots, and every time you moved, the cot made this farting noise, so just imagine 1,000 people all trying to sleep at night. Either way, I didn't get any nookie, at least in the cot department, but it looks like Kaity didn't either.
Came in and said you didn't get much sleep. That I feel like that was
I know.
Yeah.
It's just because I literally have such a hard time sleeping. The girls even can attest to this, because I always had my white noise machine. We'd play the thunderstorm sounds. I'm just hard at sleeping, so.
All right, so there she is, Kaity, having a hard time sleeping. And I wanted to give you guys a bonus video here. I've actually got a new clip, because this wasn't worth its own video, because we already covered Clayton a lot this weekend. By the way, if you haven't already, check out my interview with Clayton from Wednesday's episode of Bachelor Rush Hour. Link in the comment sections. Bachelor Rush Hour, the hit daily afternoon Bachelor podcast. And by the way, thank you guys all so much for all the kind words for my interview with Chad from Game of Roses. That was also a hit. We had 3 different interviews, 3 days in a row. Dr. Diane Strakowski, also a hit. As the podcast continues to grow, and I do want to make an announcement, we just got our first sponsor that's going to be coming on for the podcast, a 4-week sponsor. More on that soon. But as you guys know, the podcast has grown in part because a lot of you guys have come over from YouTube and joined the podcast world. And how many times can I say podcast in one video? And you guys have really helped. You helped us build that new podcast that we got going on. But either way, we covered our conversation with Clayton, and here's what he had to say about his emotional response to breaking up with Susie Evans, which, by the way, it's devastating that they broke up on the terms that they did, because in part, through no fault of Clayton's, so much drama followed him. The TikTok scandal, all these other things going on. The poor guy was just searching for love. Can't Clayton find love? By the way, should we see Clayton on the beach? Should he do Bachelor in Paradise? Let's have a listen.
Right. Like not between her and I, but between the audience. It was Camp Susie, Camp Clayton.
Together, it made sense to me that you would be leaning on each other and kind of bonding through this. I feel like you've even said, like, I don't know how I would have gotten through some of those days without Susie. She probably feels the same way about you. You guys like had this shared trauma bond almost, but then was that ultimately what it was keeping you together, but then it also kind of pulled you apart? I feel like I've heard you say, like, because there was so much like emotion attached to it and like it wasn't healthy, but at the same time you guys needed each other and you leaned on each other, which is a beautiful side of it. So was it just too complicated?
Yeah. And there's two sides to every story. And I think, I would never want to speak for her, but I think like that's why for us, we just wanted to ultimately be there for each other and be supportive. And that's why we've been very adamant about letting people know that, like, hey, I got nothing but love for her. We both know that we could have done things differently, but like ultimately the outcome was the outcome. And as we tried to heal, though, honestly, it was really, really complicated because we were pitted against each other. We really were. Like, it was that night of the show where I lost my cool. It became Susie versus Clayton, right? Like not between her and I, but between the audience. It was Camp Susie, Camp Clayton. And so then all of a sudden, what can you imagine? I was getting all the Camp Clayton people in my DMs telling me that she was wrong to do this, and then she was getting all of the Camp Susie DMs. And so what it did was it just validated our internal thoughts and beliefs. Well, now we're butting heads because now we're both like, I got this many people saying this, and you have this many people saying this. Who's right? Who's wrong? The fact of the matter is all that noise on the outside had no idea what was going on internally, and we should have cut all that off. And so I remember just kind of like looking at each other and thinking, like, we have to heal separately because we can't take this any longer. Like, I'm so destroyed that like there's nothing left. I have zero like energy to fight this battle any longer. Yeah. And it was just a really sad place to be. I mean, yeah,
wow, he's breaking down.
I'm gonna get a little emotional.
Oh God.
But Clayton did not get emotional in my conversation with him. Clayton, you're holding back on me? You're giving it all to Us Weekly?
We love vulnerability. That's what the book teaches us. Everyone can be vulnerable.
It just sucked because like our last day together, we had already knew that we were ending things, but I stayed in a couple extra days after we broke up, and we fired up the projector, turned on a movie, ordered a bunch of food to the house.
All right, so he tells a story about how he spent his last day with Susie after their breakup. Oh, how sad that, a lot of the turmoil in their relationship came from a rabid audience. But, no surprises, just really sad. Okay, as promised, here's 30 seconds of my room tour of where I'm staying in my villa. Let me tell you something. I'm going to give this 7-minute-long video to the Patreon. You'll have that later today. Patreon.com/Dave Neal. If you want to support us and support the community, the Patreon is a huge part of what keeps me able to make content every single day. So have a listen. So, firstly, and I'm winded just from walking, here's the outside living area. Look at this. We're in a jungle, folks. Picnic bench.
You did leave chips out?
Well, I dropped them on the ground. And then we have this awesome outside daybed with a nice little candle. All right, I'll tell you what. Let's cut it. I'll show you a tiny bit more. Oh, here we go. Amazing river that you can't even see down there. And I'm trying to look right now. I'm in a treehouse, basically. Macaques here it is. After you go in. So there it is. All right, here's the grand opening. Okay, that's all you get. If you want to see the tour of the inside, go to patreon.com/Dave Neal. All right, I got to go get ready for dinner because we're a half a day ahead of you guys. So you are here on a Friday morning, and it's already like, I don't know, Tuesday. I don't know math. But either way, folks, more content coming your way. Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast, this afternoon, every afternoon during the work week. I'll have more stories about my dealings with the monkeys over here in the jungle. Let me tell you something. Don't mess with a monkey. They told us. They're like, oh, yeah, they're not harmful. They said, but don't make eye contact with them. I'm like, okay, no eye contact indeed. All right, that's my time, folks. That'll be it for me. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye now.